this is Carly from Saber Education. Today we're going to be showcasing our brand Joyco, and I'm here with Carolyn Gahan,
the amazing.
Carolyn. Today we're going to be, Carolyn's going to be showing you guys some lightning blonding techniques, and yeah, she'll be using our Blonde Light powder lightener and also our Lumi Shine. So Carolyn, what are we doing today?
Okay, so this is my beautiful model Elle, and she hasn't had a color for about 6 months, as you can see her regrowth there. So I'm going to be doing a really quick, really easy blonding technique. So this is kind of half of a head, but super quick. It's only going to be maybe 20 foils. And I'm going to also do a bit of low lighting in there just to get some dimension and depth back into these blonde ends. So this is called the 3-point pivot technique. So we're just going to be using a bit of a pivoting pattern. And you can tailor this to your client if they want quite heavier on the front or something more natural. So we're going to prep the hair with her favorite product.
So this is our Defy Damage Pro Series 1. So this is for bond building, bond protecting. What is really great about our Defy Damage is that it evens out the porosity of the hair. You do not have to alter your formula, so it doesn't slow down your processing either. And it's just a beautiful product to protect the hair against any chemical service. So whether it's coloring, straightening, or even your perming. What do you love about it, Carolyn?
The smell. This product's great because you don't have to, like you said, alter your developers. So you just go in with your straight developer, whatever you're going to use. And it just really puts a nice sheen on the hair, you can see. So as you go through, you just section the hair, spray it down the cuticle, and just comb through before you're going to do your color or any chemical service.
And what is our lovely model's name today?
This is Elle.
Hi, Elle.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, definitely.
She just finished work and rushed here, so
thank you.
Where's my pleasure?
I'm just going to ask everyone, if you can hear us, just give us a thumbs up. Just make sure that everything is working fine. Can you just let us know, thumbs up or a heart or something? And don't forget to ask your questions, because that's the whole point of doing this live.
So another little hot tip, guys, when you are using your Pro Series 1, so Defy Damage Pro Series 1, which is this guy here, always make sure we give it a good shake before we use it. And also what I do in salon is I actually get the client to feel their hair prior to using the product on their hair, and then I get the client to feel the hair after combing it through. So Elle, maybe you could help us out here on your sides and tell us the difference after we put the product in the hair.
Yeah, you can already see it. That's on this side. It's gone through.
Yeah, look at that shine.
Compared to that.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So when you're spraying around the face, because it's quite strong of a smell, you're just going to want to direct it away from your client's face. So I'm just going to...
Right, I'll come around. I'm coming around.
This way, like that. Yeah, it's a nice smell, but it can be quite strong if you get it right in your face.
Let's avoid aerosol in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that shine really. Look at that.
So who would you recommend this technique for, Carolyn?
So this is for someone who's very low maintenance with their color. Maybe don't have a lot of time in the salon, but you could easily go, 3 to 6 months without having a color after this, because we're going to do a beautiful root shadow as well, so the color grows out really nicely with a low maintenance sort of look.
And just out of curiosity, what is a ticket price roughly that you would charge or look at charging one of your clients?
So this service, I usually
if I can ask.
Yeah. $1 million. So I do packages. So I include everything all together. So a cut, color, your treatment, toner, the whole shebang. And so for this, I would charge about $350. Yeah, because we're just doing a few, but it has a big impact.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna leave out a big triangle in the back, just to have some depth for the blondes to bounce off of. So yeah, it's not a, won't take you super long in the salon to apply this technique.
Excellent. And Elle, do you want to just feel that side again and tell us what's your feedback?
It feels much smoother. A lot nicer.
Oh, we don't even need to do it.
Perfect. I'm just going to bring this camera around here in front so everyone can see Elle from the front before we start.
I mean, she's gorgeous anyways. So yeah, so we're just going to lighten up around her face and underneath there, because she's quite dark underneath there.
Okay.
So when she wears her hair up, just gonna do 3 foils there and 3 on each side.
Okay.
So we're gonna leave all of the back out. Okay, so when I'm doing this sectioning, I'm going to find the apex of her head. So the way you do that is just have your client look straight into the mirror. You just hold your comb there, and whenever the comb sits, that's the apex. So that's how we know where we're gonna section the hair. If you don't find out where that is, and you think the apex is down here, and you do a highlight that you think is gonna fall backwards, it actually might fall forward and become very chunky. So it's really important just to see how the hair falls, and you can just see where it naturally wants to split. So that's what I'm gonna go with, just around there. So I'm just gonna section to behind her ear, and just put a little bit there. So I'm not going crazy doing 1,000 little subsections and things. I just want to be quite organic on where I'm going to place the color. So I'm just going to get these front bits out of the way. Okay, so she has loads of hair, which makes me jealous anyway. So we're just going to start up the back, and we're going to start with the 3-point pivot. So we're going to do 1 there, 1 and 1, starting from the same spot. So I'm literally just going to, where your hairline is, I'm going to zigzag just like that, literally over the hairline. And that's going to give me the section that I want to use, okay? And these ones you can be a little bit heavier with, because when the client wears their hair forward, they want to see those highlights in the front. So under here, don't do anything super fine. It's just going to get lost in the hair. So you can make these a little bit on the heavier side, okay? So I'm literally just going to clip this whole side out of here. Okay. So this is a section. I'm using quite big foils today. And I'm just going to paint the lightener onto my foil first, just so the hair will stick onto there. I'm just gonna go in just like that. And with my comb, I'm just going to push the hair into the lightener so that it just sticks like that. So I'm just gonna go through and just paint that highlight on.
Do you find the wide foil much easier to work with, Carolyn?
Yeah. So when I get to the root, I'm not trying to get as close as possible, because I'm going to do a root shadow there, but I'm just kind of feathering it up into the root. Because sometimes if you try to get really perfect in there, these foils in the hairline can get very warm, and they can move around, especially if the client's moving a lot, and you can get some bleeding under there. Not bleeding, but like, everyone's like, what do you mean bleeding? Like bleeding out your lightener.
Hairdressers know.
Yeah.
Hairdressers know.
She's like, okay, so I'm just on 1 there.
Okay, so we've just got a couple of questions. What foils are we using, and what color formula are we using today?
Yeah, so these are the Foil Me foils. They're extra wide. I'm just gonna grab the box so you guys can have a look. And this is lightener with just 10 volume.
Great.
So,
Okay, thanks, Carl. Give us a little
yeah.
smile, Carl.
okay, so I'm just doing the next one over. So I've just pivoted that from the same point closer to the nape. So we're just gonna go in and another quite heavy section, just like that. Grab your foil, put some lightener on there, and then just stick. So use the back of your comb and just push it into the lightener so it sticks there for you. Some people like to use boards for the back of the neck, and that's totally cool. I just find this works better for me. So yeah, the reason I'm just using 10 ball is because she's naturally a level 6-ish. And we just wanna, when we move to the front, we're gonna use a 20 ball, but we just don't wanna over process the bottom, because you know that can happen sometimes. It just gets almost white in the bottom, and then you're trying to tone and put pigment back in, whereas this way I just want to have a bit more control. So the 10 ball helps me do that. Cool, so that's the second one. So we'll do one more here, then jump over to the next side.
Okay, so we'll watch you
Okay.
take your section.
So basically you're just going closer into the nape. So I've done 1, 2, 3 from the same point behind the ear. So we haven't gone up into this bit at all. So we're just trying to create a beautiful pocket of lightness sort of there, so that this darkness can sit behind that. And just pop out a little bit more.
Just a question is, what is the target level to lift to?
So we are going to lift her to clean 9, level 9. So yeah, we're just going for a beautiful creamy blonde, quite a natural look. So nothing super ashy, but nothing super gold as well. Because as you can see, her hair will fade out gold anyway. So yeah, just a nice pale yellow, like the inside of a banana. So just feather up into the roots. So I'll talk about the root shadow formula a little bit later as we get going, and also the low light. So I'm not going to add the low light until I've done all the foils, all the blonde, and then I'm going to go back in and do the low light, just so we can have even lift for all the highlights.
And Carolyn, what have you used for your low light?
So the low light, I used it is a demi, but it's an alkaline demi, not an acidic demi. So that means I have more control with it. Whereas if I use the liquids, so in Joico Lumishine, it's a liquid demi, and if you put that in a foil, it just gets really dark, and especially you can see her ends, right? They're very porous. So if you put that in a foil and you walk away, you're gonna come back to a very dark low light, which has happened, and it's not very fun. So I chose to use the DD cream, so it's ammonia-free demi-permanent color in a 7 NWB.
So a good tip, guys, as well, is when you are using your DD creams or your liquid demis or any demi really, is just be mindful that if the hair is super porous, what will happen is that hair will grab and it can go darker. So figure out what desired and target level and color that you're wanting to achieve, and then go a level lighter. Would you say that?
Yeah, so I'm using it with a 10 ball. Yeah, it just gives you more control as well. And the last thing you want to do is worry about how dark something's getting. So the DD creams are great for that, because the opacity is really good as well. So they have a really rich color, and they will cover the blonde ends. But also, other than, like, if you're going to use a permanent, well, you shouldn't use a permanent on your low lights, just because eventually if she wants to lighten those out, it's going to be really difficult. Whereas a DD cream, if she wants to go in maybe in 6 months and highlight those hairs again, it's going to be a lot easier. So yeah, just use your DD cream for your low lights.
So for anyone who's just joined us, welcome. We are underway with Carolyn's 3-point pivot technique. As you can see, she's just finishing the back section here. It's literally 3 foils on either side, pivoting from a point just behind the ear.
Cool. So this is our last one on this side. So you can start to imagine how much lightness is going to come through there. And then we're going to leave the dark just behind that.
And Carolyn was saying earlier, these foils are actually quite chunky. We want them chunky because, well, Carolyn?
Yeah, I just find them easier to work with, and you can take a bit wider sections. And just, Elle's hair is very long as well, so that it helps, you don't have to wrap the hair up on itself 1,000 times. So you just get a bit more even lift, I find. Cool, so that's the back done. We're just gonna come to the crown a little bit. And we're just going straight across the crown here. And we're just gonna do 3 of your normal weaves up here. Because we want in the back of their hair just the lightness to really fall quite naturally. And nothing stripy, or we're not looking for that big ribbon of color for this look. So yeah, just straight across. This is just your classic weave at the crown. So when you're foiling, guys, instead of holding the hair down and putting the foil up like that, you don't get very close to the scalp. So what I like to do is lift the hair straight up, put the foil in, and then put the hair down over top. You see how close you get to the root then?
Yeah, wow.
What's another thing as well, like about the size of your section
Yes.
when you're foiling, Carolyn?
So I mean, the thicker the foil, the section of hair, the longer and harder it's going to be to lift that hair. So you want to take very fine sections. You want to be able to see your comb underneath the section, basically. If you take a section and put a comb underneath and you can't see the comb, you know your section's too big and too thick. Sorry. So you need to, just use finer sections. Just gets the job done.
And do you have any other hot tips when it comes to foiling?
Probably.
I'd like to ask about some bleach consistency. Where do you stand on the sight mixing versus measuring?
So I never really use a scale. Probably should, but I like mine quite thick, I will say. So I just kind of use my eyeballs and give it a stir, see what it's like. But yeah, I mean, generally you should do sort of 1-to-1 or 2-to-1. But it also depends what you're doing. Like if you're doing freehand, you obviously need the lightener not super thick. It has to glide through the hair quite easily. So yeah, you make it a little bit runnier consistency for freehand. But in a foil, I like it pretty thick like that. Like I don't really.
So let me just add in there as well for our little apprentices. Getting technical now. We advise that you do mix it either 1-to-1 or 1-to-2, or anywhere in between. You can even go 1-to-1.5, and that's just so you get predictable results. Carolyn, how long have you been hairdressing for?
20 years.
Yeah, so Carolyn's got the luxury of having 20 years experience under her belt and also knowledge of her clients too, so.
Yeah, if it's too runny, it's just going to leak out your foils, and you're just going to have polka dots everywhere. It's just not going to be good. If it's too thick and your section is too thick, it's only going to lighten the top of your section, and the underneath will be orange. That color that everyone
Blorange, blorange.
Yeah. Okay, so this is my last foil on the crown.
Okay.
So some people like to tease. You can do that as well if you like. For this, I'm going to do a root shadow anyway, so I don't feel the need to tease the hair here.
So what would teasing do, just for those that don't know?
Teasing, yeah, it's just going to give you more of a diffuse kind of line and also more depth at the root. So some people also like to brush up against the hair to give you a softer line there. But again, we're going to do a nice root shadow. So it's not super, super important, but you can if you want.
And you're taking that, even though we are root shadowing, you are going to take it quite
Yes.
tight to the root there.
Yeah. Because what happens if this isn't fully saturated, this is going to be quite warm here, and then when you're trying to do your root shadow, you have to formulate to neutralize all that warmth. So you're almost trying to correct it rather than just make it look more beautiful, which can, you know, it's more fun making things more beautiful than they already are, more enhancing them rather than trying to correct them and put a band-aid over top of them. So I find, yeah, fully saturation at the root always works best for me. Then when you're formulating for your root shadow, you're just going to formulate as if you're covering gray or something. We'll get into that as well. But
Okay.
yeah,
Can just do a little recap just for anyone who missed the beginning. We'll just show you what we've done underneath here. We have 3 foils pivoting from a point just behind Elle's ear here to the nape with a nice zigzag sectioning, and same on the other side. And then we've got 3 on top. So this is moving really fast, guys.
Yeah. So I'm going to come back in and do some low lights through here. But I just want to get all the foils in now just so they process evenly. Okay. So Elle, where do you normally part your hair?
Probably straight down the middle.
Center? Okay, cool. So if they did part on the left or the right, you just sort of shift their part over, and that's where you're going to color from. But we're just going to go right down the center.
And why is that, Carolyn?
Just because if she parts there the most, because we're doing minimum foils, you know, if we were doing a half head with foils everywhere, she could, you know, part wherever she wanted to. But because it's a very minimal application, it's best to target where she actually is parting the hair to get the most out of that color.
Sorry, I'm also trying to remember we've got some apprentices watching this as well.
Okay, so we're gonna go like that. So yeah, we're basically just gonna mimic kind of how the natural hair goes. You can see her natural color is, even though she hasn't had a color in 6 months, she's still got lots of beautiful highlights that come out there. So we're just gonna accentuate those. Just with 10. Yeah, maybe 20 now.
20, yeah.
Okay, so we're just gonna mix out with 20 now, just because we're moving along pretty quickly here. Okay, so I'm going to do a foil. So we're gonna do 3 going back this way, because we want to get a nice contour around here, and when she wears her hair up, we want to see a nice bright hairline there. So I'm just going to section that out.
So this look is equally versatile for people who want to wear their hair up or down.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's minimal effort for kind of a big impact on the hair. So just get those little baby hairs out. So hairs like this, we're not going to highlight because they will end up just looking more like breakage if they're really blonde. So we're just gonna let those do their thing and then sort of disappear into the rest of the hair. If we highlight them, you know, they really stand out. So these little babies are just gonna go away.
Is that consistency okay, hun?
Okay, so we're just gonna go around here, and we're just gonna take a nice weave out of there. Just like that, so you can see how big that's gonna be. I'm just gonna switch to the smaller foils for here. Cool, so we're just going in like that. Just holding the foil there with my thumb. And we're just gonna place right on. And just be careful when you grab the foil that you don't like pick their nose, because I've actually done that and it's really embarrassing. So just make sure you just grab the foil and that's it. Okay, so we're just gonna feather up the side of the brush into the hairline there. She's a bit darker there, but this is still quite blonde, so I just wanna leave these ends out. Even though they have a bond builder on them, it doesn't mean you can just break all the rules and highlight hair that's already blonde. You still need to protect that hair, especially because we've moved to 20 vol now as well. Cool.
I'm glad you've highlighted that, Carolyn, that it's a protective, preventative treatment, not breaking the rules, and it's pushing the boundaries in your lightning service.
Okay, so that's one. We'll do 2 more here. She's just gonna go, we're not gonna pivot on this one, we're just gonna go sort of parallel to that last one.
I'm just going to come in over your shoulder there. Great.
The second one. All right, it's the same thing. These little guys just really wanna, they're like blonde me. Okay, cool. So we're just gonna go in and do the same thing. Just weave out there.
Question from Amanda. How long do you like to process your bleach?
That totally depends. I mean, she'll probably process for maybe 20 minutes, but I mean, I only see one client at a time, so I can manage them, and I'm never gonna put a timer on and just walk away. Like, I really am constantly opening foils and looking back. So yeah, everyone is totally different. There's no real one answer for how long to process bleach. You just gotta keep in mind the hair texture, the quality of the hair, the porosity of the hair, and your target level, basically. So I know the blue lighteners can be a little bit deceiving, where you think, oh yeah, she's ready now, and then you rinse it off and it's bright yellow. So really just kind of scrape the lightener off a little bit with your finger and have a look. If you think it's good, then go for it. But yeah, everyone's totally different, but the smaller the section, the quicker it will process.
Can you tell us a little bit about your preferred? You said you prefer to only have one client at a time.
Yes.
You know,
So,
what value do you see in that?
So I used to do 4 clients at once, like most of my hairdressing life, and I've just switched to, well, a year and a half now, just switched to doing 1 client at a time, and that for me is just, it's just easier because you just have one person to think about for that time. And like, I remember times when I would literally forget about a client. Like, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's done that, but I will admit that sometimes I'm like doing a men's cut and I'm like, oh my god, I literally have a client with foils on her hair. And the quality of your work goes way up. You know, you can have a proper consultation with your client. I mean, there's endless benefits, really. You can eat lunch, you can go for a pee. I mean, there's so many things you can do. And I like to, you know, we have to do our social media and our marketing, and that's the time that I take to do all those things instead of going home and doing all that when I get home. I want my home time to be, you know, with my hubby and my dog and doing my thing, and I don't want to be on Instagram and doing all that stuff. So I like to do 1 client at a time, process, and do my stuff in between.
And how do you find that affects your bottom line?
It's the best thing I've ever done. Literally, it's just, I go home a happy person, and yeah, it's changed my whole life, to be quite honest. It's not made me poor. It's, you know, people think you have to do more clients to make more money, and that's just not true. Okay, so I'm just moving
saying
up.
quality, not quantity.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Okay, so I'm moving up here now quickly. So we're just gonna follow the hairline. I'm gonna take those little babies out of there because I don't want to highlight them. And we're just going to, from where she parts it, we're just gonna sneak over there. Just grab that first little section of hair. So as you can see, this has not been colored. All this stuff in here, we're gonna add some lowlights in there, and we're also gonna add lowlights back there. So you're gonna see the impact that the lightness has with the lowlights. Beautiful. Okay, so these little guys stay out of there. And this is where you can tailor it to your client. If she's like, I wanna be really heavy around the front, lots of chunky highlights, then you could literally go in and just do a full slice there if you want. But for Elle, I feel like, because she hasn't had her hair done in 6 months, I feel like she probably is not gonna have her hair done for another 6 months. So I'm just gonna do something quite natural. Just so she has, because she's a model, right? So she has had the ability to be casted for different jobs. And if she has one very specific blonde heavy look, then it might not work for all of her clients. So I'm just going to do something very natural on her hair. And I'm just going to do your normal weave around here. So some people like to highlight the hair underneath, and some people like to highlight the hair on top. So I always like to do the on top. It's just the way I am. But I understand some people like to do the underneath, just because if you have any bleeding of the foil, if you do the bottom and there's bleeding, there's nothing for it to bleed onto. So if you do the foil on the top, you risk having some bleeding there. So just keep that in mind. If you're not so confident in foils, maybe do that bottom section first, so you don't have to worry about the bleeding there.
What's some other tips on avoiding bleeding that you would give?
Okay, so sometimes clients will literally like pat their foils, or they're sitting in the chair and they're like la 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 la, because they actually have no idea that is wrecking their hair. I'm just gonna go. Oh yeah, I'll go over here and you go.
Okay, yep, no, there we go. I'll come round. Sorry, we're just doing a little dance here, people.
Yeah, bleeding. So see how thick this lightener is? That's not going to bleed unless I literally paint it onto the root. So that's another reason why I like really thick lightener. But yeah, if you go too close to the root and then you pack a foil and you smush it down, that can cause a lot of bleeding, and it's just a mess whenever you take the foils out. It's really not a nice surprise. So, I'm just leaving a bit of room for the swelling of the lightener. I'm not painting, it's close enough. And keep in mind, we're going to have a root shadow there. Basically, to the
Sorry,
hair.
people, if that turned off. Sorry.
All right.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good. I just had a little technical issue.
Can we get a thumbs up to make sure we're good?
We're back on.
Please.
It takes a little while. Sorry. Sometimes it's not quite.
What's a live feed without a blue?
Yeah. Anybody at all? Anybody?
Ratio of the lightener was 1:1.
Okay, so I'm just doing the second foil. It's basically directly behind the last one, but it's still weaved. So this is where if you wanted something very heavy on the ends, you could take that whole section and literally you could do a back combing and you could foil that whole section. That's for a very heavy sort of money piece around the face if you wanted to. I'm just gonna take that back combing out. But again, this will still be, a little bit heavy because we're going 3 back to back, but I'm still just weaving these out because I want her to have a nice grow out as well. So that's just the second one. Yeah, I'm just leaving these guys out. If you want at the basin, if you say you wanted to refresh these and get them a bit lighter, there's a few options for you. You can paint this through with a 5 vol towards the very end. You can also use like a clear and 30 vol. Because toner can't make this brighter, So don't say, oh yeah, I'll just tone these to make them brighter. That's not a thing. Toning doesn't make hair bright. Toning is depositing basically colors and then neutralizing color. So if you want these to be lighter, you have to lighten them somehow. And you need to do that very gently also. So yeah, I could come back in 10 minutes and paint some on with 5 vol if I wanted to, if I was really concerned about that. But that's something also you can do at the basin. You can do a basin balayage really quickly. Sometimes I do that, I'll paint the root shadow on and then I'll basin balayage the ends just to freshen that up with some lightener. So there's a few options for you, but don't rely on a toner to make these bright. It's not gonna happen. Okay, so I'm just doing my third one here, and then we're just gonna pivot and do 3 right up to the hairline. So it's super quick, this one. So this is my third one. So I'm just gonna, so I'm almost kind of doing like a circling motion when I do that. And instead of grabbing a little section like that and then weaving that, I'm grabbing the whole section and then just kind of like doing little mini circles with my foiling
Almost like
comb.
sewing.
Yeah. Okay, so that's 3. I'm just gonna put a little line in there and just move that so Elle can see what's going on here. Yeah, just make sure your clients are always comfortable. Don't have a bunch of hair on their face and stuff, just because they probably want to read the gossip magazines or Okay, so I'm just gonna, that's a really small thing. I'm gonna do 1, 2, and we're gonna stop at the hairline. So we're not doing any horizontal foiling. These are all, these are all gonna go up through the side, but really quickly. So we're all gonna pivot from the same spot. 1, 2, 3, and then we're done this side.
Back to the wide.
Sure. Just gonna do 1 here. Okay, so this is a fun little trick for you guys to tailor to your client. So inside a foil, you can do different weaves. It doesn't have to have the same weave in every foil, if you know what I mean. I'll show you. So say she's already got enough blonde in the front here, and you want a bit more lightness back through here, but you want to just do 1 foil. So you're just gonna go a bit heavier back here, and then you're just gonna go very fine in the front, okay? So you can see it there. If she really wanted a lot of lightness through the front, you're gonna take that section and you're gonna do heavy right through, okay? So you can do however thick, thin you want in here, just depending on what the client is after. So for this one, because I've already got 3 back-to-back foils there, I'm going to go a little heavier here and then just fine at the root, at the front, at the hairline, just like that. So as you can see also, when I take out those small bits, so when I'm taking a heavier foil or heavier weaves, I bring my comb down to the bottom, and when I want to do very fine, I bring it up to the top so I can see more of what I'm doing. Just like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, great.
Cool. So I'm happy with that. I'm gonna put a foil in there now. A big giant foil.
Do you want the small ones?
No, I just wasn't used to it yet. Okay, so that's what that looks like. So more blended here, and I still want some lightness coming through there because we haven't highlighted any of that hair under there. So we can use the wide foils here because the head is quite flat here. If you're finding it's too round, try to do 2 different sections maybe, because what will happen is you'll either get some bleeding on the sides because you're trying to drag the hair into the wide foil, or it just doesn't get light enough. The sides will stay quite warm. So yeah, just make sure the head is flatter if you're gonna use the wider foils. Makes it easier. Wide foils are the best. Yeah, hold that. There. Yep. Cool. So 2 more. So we're gonna pivot from this side back to there now, just like a pie, kind of, just another piece of pie. So 1 there, and then we're gonna do the last one there. So it's just like a piece of pie. Cool. Everyone following? Everyone asleep?
Oh, lots of people.
Okay, hi.
Does anyone have any questions to ask?
There is a bit of a lag, so
gotcha.
if we don't get to your question, it's still coming. I will read everything out.
Okay. So in this one, we're just gonna do the same. I'm just actually gonna go a bit smaller of a weave there, because now we're getting closer up to the root, or to her parting, so you could see those a bit more. If you do quite heavy, you'll see those more up towards the top. So I'm just gonna do a kind of a medium weave on this one. I'll do the same on the top. So you lift the foil up, put there, and then you put over top.
Yes, Pauline, we will show a before and after pic. We took some before pics before we started, and when we are all done here, we're going to let this all process and get Elle all finished. Carolyn's going to do a little bit of styling for us, and we will post in a little while this afternoon.
Okay, so now we're gonna do right at her part. So we're gonna section out that parting. So this is the one that everyone's gonna see. So make sure you do a nice even weave. And keep in mind that there's a one in the crown here. So you don't need to go right to that section because you already have a highlight there. If you go really heavy there next to that one that falls back, you're gonna have a bit of a chunk there. So just leave a little bit of a gap there where that other one was in the crown. So I'm just going to do like that. So when that falls down, you can, so just like let it go a little bit and you can see visually what that's gonna look like when that falls down, right? It's gonna be very blended, very soft and natural, and with a really easy grow out.
Sort of like a veil.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So this, Carolyn, this is a much more modern sort of look than your traditional
Yes.
foil over the top of the part and have it fall.
Yeah, so there's no stripiness that you're gonna get. It's gonna be very soft and blended, especially because of the root shadow as well. But you just wanna be highlighted without it look like she's had highlights, you know? Just like she's kind of been to the beach with some lemon juice.
Bit of sun in.
Yeah.
No. Look, you should have seen that face. I missed it,
That's
but the look of the look on of Sunny.
Okay, and that's that side. Easy. Okay, so the next side. See, it's pretty quick. Okay.
I'm gonna just come round in front here. Sorry, Elle.
Okay. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna section out that hair around the hairline. I like to use sound effects also. They make a big difference in the outcome of the hair. Okay. Again, remember these guys, we don't highlight these. These go back to their home. And everyone has them, I know they do. Okay. So I'm just going to, do you wanna come this way?
I'll go here, if that's all right. Am I right there with you?
Yeah. So that's what we're working with, that much hair. So lift the hair up, foil, and then that goes over, instead of doing that. See the difference? When you lift the hair up, put the foil in over, you get really, really close to the root.
Sort of over direct it up.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for some lightener. Sorry.
It's all good. Do you want to just talk us back through that back section? Just for
Yes.
anyone who didn't see the beginning, just...
So we started behind the ear, and we did 3 sections towards the nape. So on a diagonal, 3 on each side, and pretty heavy because we want to see that lightness coming through there. That's what clients really look at when they get their color done. They look in the mirror and they go, it's not light enough. So if you make sure to get some heavy pieces under there, that's not gonna happen. It's all about these and around the face. They don't, I feel like no one really cares about what's going on back there. They need to see the lightness around the face, so that really helps. Thank you. And also it helps having the dark, this hair with some depth in it next to those. Because if it's too light, they're just, you're kind of losing the effect of highlights if it's all too light. So just feathering that in with the corner of my brush. Keep those blonde ends out. And we're going to just close that up. Just give that a little. Yeah, these ones I like to really lock in because they can fall out because the hair is quite fine there. So I really like to make sure those are locked in tight there. Just gonna go behind that one again. Just grab that whole section and then we're just gonna weave out of there. Lift, foil down.
So this is really going to be high impact here.
Yes, around the face, yeah. Well, I mean, there's still weaves. Like, this is what I'm saying, you can tailor it to whatever your client wants. You can do slices here, you can do big, heavy backcombing, you can balayage. I mean, you can do whatever. Just, for Elle, we're keeping it a bit more natural, but yes, more contouring around the face, yeah. Cool, and after I'm done this, I'm just gonna check the back ones and see how they're traveling. So the other thing you can do, like if Elle didn't have really light ends, I would do what's called a tip out in between the foils. So I'll just show you what that would look like. Okay, so say these didn't have any highlights in them. So what I would do is between each 3 foils, I would take that whole section and I would backcomb that up. And then I would paint on the lightener. But because this is not going to be incubated in a foil, you have to bump up your developer. So say this was all dark hair, right? There was no highlights in there. If you were going to do a tip out, you need to bump up your volume to either 30 or 40. Just because it's going to be an open air sort of technique. I mean, you can put a foil on it, but it's going to be slower than these guys because you're doing a bigger section and it's hand-painted balayage technique, so you're not really saturating the hair as much as you are in the foil. So keep that in mind. If you're going to do tip out, the volume of your lightener needs to be much higher. Otherwise, these are still at a level 8, 7, 8, and these are white. So then you're a little bit screwed up there. Okay, so those 3 are done. So if you want to come around, I'm just going to look at the back foils just to see how we're traveling. So you can see the color of those. So if I had used a 20 or 30, these would be already ready to come off and I would be in a little bit of trouble. So this is why I did a 10 ball, because I still want to do low lights in there as well, and I need time to do that. So just use a lower developer and you have more control over your color. Okay, so we're gonna go up around the face here, on the hairline.
And this is the pivot coming back in.
Yeah. So we're gonna start like that. And these little guys, we're not gonna touch those. Okay, so we're just going to weave that out. Like that. Okay. And don't pick the nose, just grab the hair. Foil. Have you done it before? Touch their face?
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
Give us a thumbs up if you've ever accidentally picked someone's nose.
Oh god, so embarrassing. Or you tried to rub off color, but it was actually a mole.
Yeah.
Guilty!
Or freckle or pigmentation.
Every time.
So embarrassing, isn't it?
My lord. That is just...
And there's no coming back from that.
Oh lord. Alright.
Okay, so just talk us through this again.
So we're just pivoting outwards. So from that center point, we're just going a bit more on an angle parallel sort of that last one, but a little bit of a pie shape.
And you're pivoting off the center point because we're center part, but if it were a side part,
Yeah, we would go from the side. Exactly.
you would pivot off that.
I mean, you can do both. Like, there's a lot of people that do side and center, and that's totally fine. You can do, you know, it's sometimes nice to have the color looking different on different parts of your hair, so it's kind of a bit more fun to play with. You know, if one day you're like, oh, I feel like not seeing as much blonde, you can part it the other way, or it's hair color, guys. Have fun with it. Okay, so just leaving those blondes in there. So you can go back in afterwards and paint those down if you like. But make sure you've done your Defy Damage Pro Series 1 as well. That will really help out. But yeah, if they're just a little bit gold, I mean, you don't need to do 20 vol on those. Literally just use lightener with 5 vol just to blast them up a little bit. Okay, so this is the last one. 1, 2, 3.
What would you say 3 of your biggest challenges have been, Carolyn, when you're foiling hair?
3 of my biggest challenges with foiling hair. Oh, it's just, if the salon wants to go really light from really dark, like, you know, you need to use small sections, lower developer, and it's just very time consuming. So it's just, for me, it's like people, I think, book these jobs that they think is like a classic highlight technique, and they want something that's, you know, foiling is not what it used to be. It used to be just like foils, wash out, and they go, and now it's like the toning and the dimension and the root shadows, and there's so many different elements of highlighting hair now that maybe people don't realize, and so just kind of explain that to people and how long it takes. And so sometimes I get really behind because I'm like, oh, it should be fine, and then I'm like, oh god, that takes way too long. So yeah, just I do a lot of like big transformations and stuff, and those just, you know, they take about 6 hours to 8 hours, so you just need to allow that time, which is why I just take one client at a time. Because if you do 2 or 3 clients at once and you get behind, you're up shit's creek basically. So that way, if I just do 2 clients a day, I can easily just call my second client and be like, hey, can you just come maybe 15 minutes later, or whatever it is. It's not a huge drama, instead of calling 12 clients and telling them that you're late. Okay, so in this foil, I'm doing my pivots. This is my second last foil, so I've done a little bit finer foil weave here and a lot heavier in the back. So I'm just trying to mirror that other side that I've done. So really fine and then a lot wider. But these sections are still very fine. Like, you know, they're not thick sections. Because I want to get a nice even lift up to a nice clean level 9, basically. Cool, so 2 more, and then we'll do some low lighting. This is the last one, second last. So again, just really small weaves here, and then a little bit bigger towards the back.
And just remind everybody about that back foil at the crown, Carolyn.
Yes. So this one is already highlighted. So you can see in here, there's already lightness there. So don't go too heavy back here, because then you'll just create a big blonde sort of streak there. So thanks for reminding me. I'm just gonna take a little bit out. Cool, so you can see towards the face, it's a little bit finer because she already has those 3 back to back. A little bit finer there and a little bit heavier towards the back.
So when you have your big transformation clients, Carolyn, what do you do in terms of a consultation versus when you actually do the colour? Do you prefer to have a consult prior to give yourself time to plan, or are you more on the fly?
I mean, a lot of it is sort of done over email or Instagram, just sort of, if I've never met them before, I would prefer them, to come in for a consultation. But if that's not possible, just, lots of pictures, what they're after, and I always ask for a 12-month hair history, so I can understand what has happened to their hair over the last year. Because, sometimes a picture it looks brown. I'm like, no, I haven't colored it. And then, you know, they arrive and it's just like, yeah, I colored it, but like 6 months ago. And you're like, well, that's still, you still colored your hair. So yeah, the consultation is very important. If I can do it in person, I will. But yeah, I book at least 6 hours for that stuff. It's just crazy. Okay, so this is the last one right at the part. So it just looks like that. So very similar to this one. You see? Cool. Cool. And then we're done with the highlighting, and we're gonna chuck in some lowlights. Do we have time to do that?
Let's go ahead.
Okay. Okay. They're not gonna take long, it's just a few sections. Cool. So just close up that. Okay. So, as you guys can see, when you're trying to find someone's natural level, you need to go to the back of their hair because it hasn't been affected by sun and other things. So when you put up your chart, so she's kind of around level 5, level 6-ish, as you see there. The lighting's a bit...
Reflex a bit hard
Yeah,
with the...
sorry.
That's all right.
Anyway, so for the low light, we want to stay kind of tone on tone. So we've mixed up a 6 and an 8 in the natural warm beige reflect. Because we need the warmth, because these ends are quite porous, so they will really grab color if it's too ash. So I like to think of blonde hair as almost like gray hair, and you need a natural to get a good coverage. It needs to be opaque enough that it's going to cover that and not look very hollow. So that's why I've mixed up a color with a natural warm beige in it. So you're not going to get any very muddy. But it's going to cover the blonde enough and not fade off quickly. Every color fades, that's just, we can't stop that, but we want it to stay on as long as possible.
And which color line will you use for your...
This is the DD cream, so that's their alkaline demi. So like I said earlier, it's more opaque rather than your acidic liquid demi. And also the acidic demis, the liquid demis, they can go very dark very quickly. So we don't want that. We just want a nice, consistent depth. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna grab that and I'm just gonna pick out kind of where the blondest pieces are, like that. So this is where we're gonna add the depth, and we're just using a level 7. Because I don't wanna add really low lights in there. I just want to make it look as if it hasn't been colored, so sort of back to her natural. And the consistency of this is very nice. It just sort of glides on it. It's really beautiful in the hair as well, quite shiny. And so we're just going to do a few big heavy pieces of this. And I'm using this with 10 ball. So I'm just going to feather it up in there because a 10 ball can still shift the hair a little bit. It's not going to lighten it. There's a big difference between lightening hair and shifting the color. So we're just going to put that in there. Come over to the other side. And it's just where, just look for natural pockets that the sun wouldn't hit, basically. So the sun's not usually going to hit these pieces, so these don't need to be blonde. So I want these to have some depth in them. So I'm just going to take a big weave like that, and they're pretty heavy, these weaves, right? They're pretty thick. So the consistency of the color can push through that hair. So when you're painting on, just make sure you're brushing back and forth as well. Like you really want to open that hair up and get that color into all the hair there. The other option, if you still wanted to see quite blonde on the ends, you can just low light to a certain spot and then leave the ends, do the ends with a clear or with a toner as well. You know, you don't have to paint the low light right down to the bottom, but we're just creating some nice pockets of depth in there. I'm just going to do another one. Just here. So we've got those 3 foils here that are gonna fall over top of that. So I just wanna take that and just put a low light there. Because no matter how blonde these will, once they're next to that, they won't look as blonde. So we need to have this depth in here for the blondes to pop. So open the hair up, go side to side. But you can see the consistency is not like a permanent, where a permanent is kind of hard to push around in the hair. This is a bit more liquidy, which is nice. So yeah, always use your demi as a low light, not a permanent and not a acidic demi, like not your toners. Because when the hair is porous, it just goes too dark. Cool. We'll just do 2 on each side and then we're done. So this is where we have no color in, so we're gonna add some depth in through there. So I'm just going to fold these up. Actually, a good thing is just grab a piece of hair to hold those foils up.
Nifty.
Okay, so. Okay. That's a great tip. Okay. So see this? This is where I want to. And I like these blonde ones, so these can stay. It's these ones that I want to just balance out a little bit more. So I'm just gonna take big section like that.
So you really are getting like a full head effect here
Yes, yeah,
without having to spend
yes, yeah,
a long time going back to back.
yeah. And if she didn't have the highlights already, I would have done a tip out in between the foils. So like what I said earlier, the back combing and then the highlighting. Make sure you got all that hair, open it all up. Cool. And one on the other side. And we'll just move it over a bit. Crease in there. These little ones are okay.
Quick question here from Naomi. Do you find only folding once provides better?
I really only do fold once, just because if you really fold, you can remove a bit of the lightener on that crease, and so you're not getting an even lift. That's what I find anyway. So yeah, I like to keep my foils a little bit looser, unless I'm doing like a really heavy back-to-back full head kind of thing. I will lock them in a little bit more, but for me I find just one fold usually is enough. Yeah, it's just time consuming as well, having to fold a few times. So yeah, I like everything kind of loose. I know it's not like a perfectly, if you have like OCD or something, you're like, ah. But I just, yeah, it's not really about what this looks like to me, it's the after sort of thing. All right, so you can see what we're working with here. And this is just with the 10 vol. So we're getting a really nice amount of lift just with 10 vol. I know sometimes I used to just go to 30 and 40 all the time, and then I realized I don't need to do that. And 10 is just enough. So we're just gonna let her process now and just keep an eye on it. So yeah, that's that. I mean, if you wanted to, you could do some balayage, some freehand balayage, you know, on these little bits. But just keep in mind you have to bump up the developer quite a lot because it's just an open air freehand technique. Cool. So this is it. Hi.
This is 3-point pivot.
Still alive.
She's under there.
Yes. So yeah, that's the full application, guys.
Fantastic.
How good is that?
Thanks,
So
Carolyn.
we'll let her process. We'll do a nice trim, maybe if she lets me, and then a nice blowout, and we'll show you guys all the after shots, and we'll pick the hair apart so you can see how everything was placed, and I'll put the formulas down for the root shadows and all that stuff.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for coming in and showing us and sharing this technique with us.
Pleasure.
It's definitely a salon-friendly one, which it will be
Yeah, for
used,
sure.
that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And I have one more thing, so just wait there. We have
So exciting.
something coming up. So in our Lumi Shine, we have our new AA series. So we're definitely looking forward to them, guys. So AA, very, very cool, as you can see, and we have them in our permanent shades and also our liquid demis. So how exciting. So keep your eye out for these guys.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.